Everything.
I'm not some kind of Superman, I'm just trying to find who I am and get my future plan. Don't know where I'm from, don't know what my aim is, don't know where I'm going, don't wanna be famous, don't wanna be that guy. I need privacy but can't be low-key, cause it isn't me, get pulled both ways and it tears me apart. Seems for years I've been wearing these masks, one to myself, another to the multitude. Now I'm confused with which one of those is true, let alone lying myself. I realised I was lying to myself. Now I'm here, finding myself. The truth's out there, I'ma find it myself. Forget going on a holiday, bruv, I just wanna change
Everything.
I wish that I could make a happy song, but I'm depressed and I don't wanna carry on. I don't know what you've been told, Chief, but no one likes you.
Long in a friendship tried by fire, long may our crimson flag inspire, shining in glory for all men to see. Through days dark and stormy, while great Lenin led us, our eyes saw the bright sun of freedom above, and Stalin, our leader, with faith in the people, inspired us to build the land that we love. Fought for the future, destroyed the invader, and brought to our homeland the laurels of fame. Our glory will live in the memory of nations, and all generations will honor her name. Long live our Soviet motherland, built by the people's mighty hand. Long live her people, united and free, strong in a friendship tried by fire. Long may our crimson flag inspire, shining in glory for all men to see.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, 'cause nothing is promised. All I know is
Everything.
Well, I'd like to thank all my comrades for allowing me to speak today, especially to Ranjit, Harpal and Kathy. To you I give a very big thank you. So before I express what Stalin means to me, I'd first like to discuss what Stalin meant to the peoples of Russia at a time where oppression was more glaring in its mercilessness, and the emancipation of a nation from wage slavery and exploitation was considered impossible. As is always the case when relations of production are hostile to and inherently conflict with the character of the productive forces, revolt inevitably occurs and spreads wildly. Now, it was Lenin who lit the beacon that shone on Marxist theories, and Lenin who further developed them. This strenuous task was continued forth by his disciple, Joseph Stalin. Now, for Stalin, a strong economy needed a strong country, and rightly so. Industrialization was key to achieving this strength, namely because, in the least dramatic manner possible, the future of the socialist revolution in the Soviet Union was at stake. Stalin himself, he summed up the conditions of the USSR at the time when he correctly stated that if we are backward and weak, we may be beaten and enslaved. But if we are powerful, people must be aware of us. We are 50 to 100 years behind the advanced countries of the West. We must make up this gap in 10 years. Either we do this or they crush us. And how right he was. In less than 10 years, the Nazis invaded the Soviet Union, and if it were not for his plans of collectivization and industrialization, the USSR would have been dealt a vicious blow that would surely have left us severely wounded and very easy prey for the jaws of Western imperialism. Against all odds, Stalin and the Soviet peoples revolutionized a largely agrarian backwater into a powerful socialist state, and in doing so, in accordance with the tenets of socialism, transformed the limited role of the woman to that of the highest caliber. At the time, in 1923, Stalin pronounced, The women worker stands shoulder to shoulder with the man worker. She works with him on the common task of building our industry. She can help the common cause if she is politically conscious and politically educated, but she can ruin the common cause if she is downtrodden and backward, not, of course, as a result of her ill will, but because of her backwardness. The peasant woman stands shoulder to shoulder with the peasant. She advances, together with him, the common cause of the development of our agriculture, its successes, and its flourishing. Stalin continues, women workers and peasants are free citizens on an equal footing with men workers and peasants. The women elect our Soviets and our cooperatives and can be elected to these. The women elect our Soviets and our cooperatives and can be elected to these organs. Women workers and peasants can improve our Soviets and cooperatives, strengthen and develop them if they are politically illiterate. That is why the political education of women workers and peasants is a task of primary importance, a most important task for the real victory of the bourgeoisie today, when the workers and peasants have set about the building of a new life. This is why the importance of the first Women Workers and Peasants Congress, which laid the foundations for the task of politically educating working women, is really quite inestimable. Now this briefly leads me first onto the topic of the Soviet Union before the building of socialism. Now, though most of the world would like to dispute this fact, we Marxist-Leninists know the truth, that without Stalin, the healthcare system as we know it, the various social reforms that have given millions of oppressed, silenced people a voice, and more importantly, the abolition of fascism would not be in existence today. Tsarist Russia, as Stalin knew it before the revolution, was a nation of misery and mass corruption. To say that these most aristocratic of aristocrats fell from glory, as the Daily Mail described them in the Imperial Family in 2008, is an absolute insult to the working class then, along with the 80% of the population that made up the peasantry. Workers living under Tsarist rule would have no choice but to sell their labour for 14 to 15 hours per day, and no less than 12 and a half. Insurance, much less workers' rights in general, was non-existent. No regulation, no protection, and no regard for the working people resulted in droves of workers being killed, maimed, and left seriously injured on a daily basis. Women and children were undoubtedly the main objects of exploitation. Children of astoundingly young ages were forced into unbearably long hours as labour, like adults, and yet, like the women, received diabolically low wages. In particular, women living under Tsardom could not even fathom the idea of village day nurseries, working homes for destitute mothers, consulting institutions for pregnant women, no legal and no village consulting stations. There were none. The women of smaller nationalities belonging to the eastern regions of Tsarist Russia were deprived of the most basic human rights. Before the October Revolution, it would be most usual to find as many as 10 to 12 workers crowded into a small cell in barracks belonging to the factory they worked in. Now, in concern with the living conditions of the peasantry, whom until 1861 were serfs, or in other words, basically slaves to their landlords, they were subjugated to constant malicious exploitation over portions of land for cultivation, extortionate rent fees, fines, and excessive taxation after excessive taxation after excessive taxation. Further, the life of a peasant woman was just as dismal, working from dawn till dusk, entirely alienated from her labour, like the worker. Further still, in the case of women living in pre-revolutionary Russia, all doors to government, civic, and political activities were barred shut. These are a few examples of the predetermined conditions that were set out for working women and men. Truly, Tsardom was a quality of life nasty, brutish, and short for the proletariat. From the moment they were brought into the world until their very last breath, life for the working class and the then peasantry in Tsarist Russia was nothing short of a prison sentence. Now, in contrast to life under the Tsar, women could now take an active part in administration, various aspects of socialist culture and state building, while also playing an important part in socialist industry, with women mastering highly skilled trades such as engineering, technician work, and factory labour. So, in all effects, women were brought up to the same economic, political level as men, while also having the services provided for them should they, for example, fall pregnant or, for whatever reason, be put in a difficult position. Personally, my mind is immediately drawn to the psychological damage women would have likely unknowingly suffered. To be kept ignorant for years, for your whole life, generation after generation, to be told again and again that your potential as a human being, as a woman, stretches only as far as your ability to produce the next generation of workers. To go from that to helping to create a socialist state from scratch, out of a system that clings on to subordination to survive, is truly revolutionary in all sense of the word. So in a speech made at the first Pan-Russian conference of female communist militants by the Eastern women to Soviet women and workers and peasants, the Soviet Union's influence on women's emancipation was expressed like so. We were born as slaves and used to die as slaves. That is how thousands, millions of women lived their lives. And it seemed that was to be their eternal destiny, that never a hand would be raised to break their chains. But then in October 1917, a red star appeared that had never been seen before. And thus the working women and peasant women joined the revolution which changed their lives. News of those events got to us late in a confused and partial manner. For this news to reach us women of the East, it had to get through the walls, the iron bars of our paranja. Under Stalin, the Soviet Union was an unquestionable inspiration to women's liberation movements the world over, including International Women's Day, which, though in recent years became a celebration of women's achievements, originally had socialist roots. So, with that into consideration, why does Stalin continue to suffer from such outlandish lies that are seldom grounded in reality? Essentially, Stalin has not been continuously vilified because he was a mass murderous dictator who exercised total control of the nation, while strangely simultaneously giving full rights to all citizens, eradicating literacy, drastically expanding life expectancy. Not because of that, but because he posed a rightful threat to Western imperialism. The Daily Mail, who I'm almost certain have hired someone whose main purpose is just to plug anti-Stalin clickbait articles, couldn't resist adding cliche, baseless accusations of engineered famines and executions of 20 million. It is 20 million for definite this time, not 60 or 5 or 1.5 people in a... Exactly.
Don't worry,
people in a poll taken in Russia, in which Stalin was voted the third best Russian leader, actually narrowly missing the top spot by 5,500 votes. Despite the ruthless propaganda war that was propelled against Stalin and continues to this day, a war that has tragically severed our relations with our international comrades, surprising amounts of public perceptions of Stalin that is indoctrinated to us doesn't correspond with what's propagated. Perhaps partly owing to Putin having since approved a textbooks which is used across schools in the country, one that highlights Stalin's achievements. The view often held, at least by the older generation, is one of nostalgia. Many people regard him as a leader who led the defeat of Nazi Germany. In Georgia, they have a more traditional reason for liking Stalin. He was born there. This Carnegie poll found that 68% of Georgians agreed that Stalin was a wise leader who brought the Soviet Union to might and prosperity. Very true. According to the BBC, his birthplace of Gori features a Stalin museum and has voted to erect a huge statue of the dictator. A tour guide summed up the country's feelings towards the man by saying that in Georgia, most of the old generation liked Stalin. They think he was a great statesman with his small mistakes. Young people apparently don't like Stalin, of course. Our young people are not interested in history and they don't like Stalin. Across international waters, we have Mao Zedong, And the Chinese communists held Stalin in extremely high regard, which is shown by the following words of Mao on the occasion of Stalin's 60th birthday. Stalin is the leader of world revolution. This is of paramount importance. It is a great event that mankind is blessed with Stalin. Since we have him, things can go well. As you all know, Marx is dead, and so are Engels and Lenin. Had there been no Stalin, who would there be to give directions? But having him, this is really a blessing. Now there exists in the world a Soviet Union, a Communist Party, and also a Stalin. Thus, the affairs of the world can go well. We must hail him, we must support him, and we must learn from him. We must learn from him in two respects, his theory and his work. Lastly, what Stalin means to me. Stalin to me stands as a man of diligence and determination. His lifelong commitment to Marxism, Leninism, to socialism, and to the struggle for true women's emancipation, especially, provides unwavering inspiration to me. And his achievement of implementing socialism serves as a daily affirmation that the struggle to overthrow capitalism is, though arduous, very possible. Not only is it possible, Stalin reassures us that it is inevitable. And with that, I'll leave you with this last quote. Either place yourself at the mercy of capital, eke out a wretched existence as of old, and sink lower and lower, or adopt a new weapon. This is the alternative imperialism puts before the vast masses of the proletariat. Imperialism brings the working class to revolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne, for that inspiring presentation on Stalin. Well done.
All I know is
everything must change.